and in the country that they have served. Join us for a life's work here on Radio 4 in half an hour.
And a look at the weather. Mostly dry and sunny for southern regions. Cloud will thicken further north with rain later.
You're listening to Today on Radio 4 with Martha Carney and Nick Robinson at 29 minutes past 8. Kathy Clarkson has a summary of the news.
The Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn has issued an apology for the anxiety caused by him appearing at events with people who liken the Israeli government to Nazis. It's emerged that he hosted such an event at Westminster in 2010 when he was a backbencher. Labour says its code of conduct includes a strengthened definition of anti-Semitism. Northamptonshire County Council, which has imposed emergency spending controls for the second time in 6 months, is warning it might have to cut even basic services. Councillors say they need to save between £60 and £70 million by next March. Official results in Zimbabwe show the governing party ZANU-PF won a majority in Parliament in Monday's election. Votes are still being counted in the presidential contest, but the opposition MDC has claimed victory. And one of Europe's biggest drug makers says it's been stockpiling medicines in the UK to guard against a possible disruption to supplies caused by Brexit. Sanofi says it's making preparations in the event of a no deal.
Thank you, Kathy. It is 8:30. Councillors in Northamptonshire will decide today whether to limit the work the authority does to the bare minimum. The Tory council leader says the need to find up to £70 million in cuts, in addition to cuts already made, will limit the council to providing what he called a core offer. Others say it will no longer be able to protect the vulnerable, including children. Councillor Bill Parker joins us. He's a former cabinet member for adult social care at Northamptonshire County Council. Morning to you.
Good morning.
Do you believe, as the front page of The Guardian says today, that the latest rounds of cuts will mean that your council can no longer protect children?
Well, I think that there is an inherent risk that will happen. It's not only children, it's adults as well. So it is a very, very serious situation.
When we talk of those services being at risk, spell out, if you would, what sort of services provided now and you would expect to see provided may not be in the future.
Well, as we've just alluded to, the main services that the County Council are currently providing as for adult social care and for children's services. Of course, we also have to provide highways and that type of thing. But over the years, the amount of money that we've had available to spend on these services has been reducing, and it is getting to a very serious situation now.
I wondered if you could bring it down to a human level for us, Councillor Parker, as you'll know these services well, having had responsibilities. Are you talking of homes closing? Are you talking of services that people expect to turn up at their door, perhaps simply not arriving? What will this mean in practice?
Well, it's not so much homes closing, because, of course, a lot of the homes in Northamptonshire are privately run. But the big problem that you have, and Northamptonshire is not alone, but we do have certainly the highest rate of over 65s in the country. And of course, the problem is that people are living longer, but it doesn't mean to say that they're living a quality of life longer. And so a lot of the illnesses that they suffer from, such as dementia, which are the really high-cost services, they are increasing the number of people requiring those services. And so the amount of money that the County Council has to spend is increasing. But as I said earlier, there's a diminishing pot. So it is a very serious situation.
Serious? Is it one that leaves you feeling ashamed of what the council will do?
No, I'm not ashamed in any way, shape or form. I think that over the years we've achieved a tremendous amount in Northamptonshire.
And yet, of the Tories in Northamptonshire, you long boasted about having one of the lowest levels of council tax in the country. You froze it. You adopted a plan to outsource services. Perhaps you should have been raising the funds you needed instead of always blaming the government for your plight.
Well, the first point you made isn't true. We didn't freeze council tax. When we first took control in 2005, we obviously inherited the budget that the then former Labour administration had set. But the next budget we set was 2006-07. We increased council tax at the rate of inflation using our powers of measure, and we did that all the way through until 2010-11. And during that period, we actually raised council tax by 18.5%.
So you think any suggestion that this council was run by a sort of ideological Conservative group who wanted to keep council tax down in the past, you say that is not fair?
It isn't fair, and it's untrue. We kept council tax, as I say, at below the rate of inflation using RPI as a measure, and that was a benefit to the people of Northamptonshire.
Yeah, but surely you're paying the price for that now, which is you could have raised more. Well, you could have done it in line with RPI. You could have gone above that and said, this is tough for council taxpayers, but it's the money that is needed.
Yes, and it's always good to be wise in hindsight, isn't it? But the real problem came for Northamptonshire, as indeed for most authorities, is that when the coalition government came in 2010, the first thing they announced was that the revenue support grant, and that represented 70% of the revenue money that we spent, and at that time our gross budget was just over £1 billion. They said that money would disappear by 2020. We'd got to make up the difference by council tax increases and by business rates and by other ways as well if we could. Then in the next breath they announced that council tax would be frozen at 2%. And if you wanted to go above that, you had to have a referendum. Well, you know as well as I do, if you put it out to the people of any authority, and in fact I think the only people who have looked at doing that has been Bedfordshire, when the Police and Crime Commissioner did that 2 or 3 years ago. He set a budget based on a higher than 2% increase, and they voted it down. And so we stuck with that, with what the government was saying.
Councillor Parker of Northamptonshire, thanks for joining us.
It's 25 to 9. Joanne Rand was sitting on a bench after visiting her daughter's grave in High Wycombe in Buckinghamshire in June last year. What should have been a quiet moment of contemplation turned into an horrific attack. She was accidentally splashed with acid and later died from her injuries. General Webster was jailed yesterday for 17 years for her manslaughter. He was arguing with another man in High Wycombe when he took out acid. Joanne Rand's sister, Jacqueline Joyner, joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning.
Before we talk about what actually happened in court, I wonder whether you'd just describe to us what your sister was like. She was a dementia nurse, wasn't she?
She was actually a dementia carer. She was very bubbly, fun-loving, very caring, had a wicked sense of humour. She was a very lovely person.
And she was visiting her daughter Charlotte's grave, wasn't she, when this happened?
Yeah, she'd just been to visit the grave and she was sitting on a bench. I think she was looking at photos on her phone of Charlotte.
So this must have been a terrible shock to the whole family.
Oh yes, we were devastated and shocked. We couldn't believe it when she told us that she'd been a victim of an acid attack.
And she, of course, later died, didn't she, from her injuries? They weren't able to save her.